Hello and welcome to the M&M Global Awards 2016, How to Enter the Awards. My name is Danielle Redwood, Managing Director for the awards, and I have sat on many of the jury panels now, so hopefully I can give you lots of good insights as to what happens in the jury room and generally how to enter, as well as an overview of our new categories and content. We've got a few people already on the line. So you'll see to the right hand side there should be an option to click on chat, so you can post a question throughout the session if you'd like to do that. I had a couple of questions beforehand, so I'll address those as we go along too. So to start off with, apologies if I cover any basics for those of you that have entered previously. The M&M Global Awards has been running for 27 years now, so hugely established. It's a big calendar date in the diary for the Gala Dinner Awards ceremony, which is held on the 8th of September this year, so I do hope you can come to that. The early entry deadline is the 13th of May, so all entries are paid for, but you get a discount if you enter by the 13th of May. Otherwise, our overall final deadline is the 27th of May. So put that in your diaries and let's get started. So it's a huge night, the awards itself. It's got entertainment and everyone from the very senior people of brand marketers, agency CEOs, ad tech companies, media brands, through to the people that do their everyday jobs and are there to collect the trophies for all their hard work. You can see previous guests have included brands like Audi, GSK, J&J, Luxottica, Shell and Virgin, for example. So how do you enter? Entrants can be agencies, media owners, advertisers. They could be ad tech companies or mobile specialists or digital specialists. The main key to the M&M Global Awards is that your campaign must be multi-market. Really, that means that it should have run in 2 or more countries. Previously, we've had queries over, does somewhere like the UK and Ireland, for example, count as 2 countries, or even Australia and New Zealand, where language, for example, is the same and arguably even the culture is similar. At the same time, I think it's very clear that if you are submitting a campaign that's run across countries like these, you make it clear why the media had to be different. So for example, a client said to me, actually selling yogurts, for example, in Ireland, they don't buy English brands. So it actually required a whole different media strategy, even though the language and some of the distribution channels were the same. So always in your entries, make it very clear why it's a multi-market campaign. The period of eligibility is between the 1st of June 2015 and the 31st of May 2016. This is the period during which your campaign should have run. If your campaign started a bit earlier, before the 1st of June, that's fine. Equally, if it ended a little bit later than the 31st of May, that's also fine, as long as the bulk of the campaign happened within that time period. And remember, if it did finish later, you should really try to get your results included, or the results to date, because that's often very key in your entries. Finally, although it's a very international judging panel, with judges from all over the world taking part, your campaign should be entered in English. Here is an example of some of our judges from last year, from Hisco, Unilever, Expedia. The jury is always chaired by a brand, but the makeup of the jury is a mix of very senior leaders from brands, media agencies, media owners, and experienced heads from across the industry. This year we already have, for example, Hitachi confirmed, Unilever, and Playbars and Dow Jones. On to our new categories. I would heavily recommend that you go to the website, which I've put at the bottom there, mnmglobal.com awards, for the full descriptions of these categories. These are the 8 in particular that I'm highlighting as they're all new. So you can go to the website for the full description, as they're 2 or 3 sentences each, and I don't want to bore you too much, but I'll give you just a recap as to why these have been introduced and what the judges will look for. Firstly, best multi-platform campaign. This is really in place of a channel-specific category such as mobile or out of home, for example, or TV, and it really addresses the trend of campaigns are often more than that now. They're not just mobile or just out of home. Often, in fact, a campaign could have worked where an out-of-home poster could prompt usage of a mobile. So really think about how the platforms work together. So it's not just a campaign that has used multiple platforms to amplify the message, it's how they've worked together. So in this category, it's how a campaign has combined 2 or more platforms, whether that's mobile, out of home, social media, TV, radio, for example, or print. And because your campaign may or should have run across multiple countries, that combination may vary. So as long as it's the same campaign and it's showing the different mix of platforms in the different countries, that's absolutely fine. Next is best use of an influencer. It's hard to ignore the continuing strength of celebrity, leading industry figures, other characters, even a cartoon character, for example, or YouTube stars that really can help bring home a brand's message. This is about a campaign where you've done exactly that and leveraged that influencer. It might have been a completely planned campaign. It might have even been a spur of the moment. An influencer has picked up on a particular brand and you've been able to leverage that further. I know recently we had an example in the Middle East of a very famous presenter on their equivalent of Britain's Got Talent, and just for some reason one of the contestants started talking about Kentucky Fried Chicken. So instantly KFC were on the case, they were delivering buckets to the studio, they had huge social media, and it really was on the spur moment, but they used that influencer to get huge results for KFC. Next is innovative use of a publishing platform. This could be traditional or digital. Really, how are you using that platform differently? If it's print, is it the way it's printed, the way it's folded? Is it's some different execution? Digital, it could be a mobile app. As ever, really stating your objectives of the campaign and the metrics is important. Creative use of technology. Let me just check that everyone is muted. There we go. Creative use of technology. This is open to agencies, trading desks, media owners, technology companies and brands. How are you using creativity and technology to improve a campaign? There's been a lot of talk about this in the industry. Does technology kill creativity? In lots of instances, it improves it. So how has technology improved your campaign and the creativity of it? Is that through personalized ads, for example? Retargeting? Have you got some innovative, creative or strategic initiatives that have really used technology best practice to make that better? Best international growth strategy. This is actually replacing a category we had last year called Best Launch. It could still be about a launch campaign or even a relaunch. What we're really trying to get to here is you might have launched a new product, but equally you might have an existing product where you've simply grown your audience type. So for example, we've had a winner in the past for Nerf gun, which is traditionally just a kid's toy, plastic toy gun in Germany. And actually they wanted to grow their audience and get it beyond just being a toy for kids, which was a finite sector for them. And part of the campaign was getting a placement with a comedy show, The Office, which appealed in particular to young males. And before they knew it, they had grown their audience sector to young males and had huge sales results. So that's a really good example of that. Just how are you growing? It might be a new product, or it might be a new audience, or even a new country, but how are you growing? B2C campaign, I think, is fairly self-explanatory, but really, how have you influenced the opinion or purchase behavior of consumers in multiple countries? And obviously, in particular, how have you used media to do that, to grab the consumer's attention? Talent Award is another new category. This one is about talent, another really hot topic for media at the moment. How has your company or team really nurtured talent? It could be talent already within the team. Is it through learning and development, special courses or exercise that are done internally? Equally, it can be about recruitment. Have you got some new initiative? We've seen some really interesting tech applications for recruitment, video interviews, or it could be a mixture of the two. But really, it's about how has your nurturing and recruitment of or retainment of talent helped with either retention rates, company KPIs. You could state award wins as part of that example, company ranking or brand perception scores. So again, put in metrics to prove what you've done to nurture talent has been successful. And finally, this one's for the media brand sales teams, is International Sales Team of the Year. Why are they so good? What have they done that's innovative or different? What have been their impact on the sales or propensity to buy? That's really what the judges will be looking for on that one. In addition to our new 8 categories, we have some of our existing favourites. Best local execution of a global brand. Now, this is the only category we have where your campaign doesn't have to have run in multiple countries. This one, your campaign could have run in only one country. This is the only category it runs that applies to. Having said that, talent, that could be also localized. So just to recap, talent and best local execution of a global brand. I have to say that's also a really popular category. So if you're entering that one, make sure it's good. Best targeted campaign. I won't run through all of these. These are existing categories. Some of you will be used to entering them, and all the descriptions are on the website. But again, results will be key. Who are you trying to target? What was the outcomes? Best communication strategy. We've got Best Partnership Award, which is a new one that was introduced last year. How do you work with another company, which could be any type of company. It could be a mobile specialist or anything at all. It could be a media brand. Just how have you worked in partnership? And I think really important there is to illustrate how the campaign would not have been successful or would not have been as successful without that partnership. We've got best use of content. Content is still king. Best engagement strategy, best use of social media, best use of video, International Effectiveness Award. Now this one is very important to state your results, and I'll go a little bit more into that a bit later on, but results are really key, and on the Effectiveness Awards it accounts for 40% of the judges' scoring. So results are very important, not just the scale of the results, but remember to state it against your objectives, perhaps the results that have been achieved in the past, or how you've exceeded what was expected by the client. And finally, we have B2B Campaign of the Year and Smart Use of Data. Now, all of these, I would encourage you to look at past winners and winning entries, which you can find on the M&M Global Awards site, and also on our awards archive. queenglobal.com has all of our winners and shortlisted entries across all of our awards. You can see the written and also the video cases for extra inspiration. We also have Grand Prix on the night. These are really down to calculations. So these are non-entering, and these will look at the wins in the other categories, and we can work out, there's a point system of which brands and which agencies and campaigns are coming to the fore, which works out then who wins those Grand Prix at the end of the night. So the entry process. It's a two-stage entry process. The first stage is a written entry. The written entry is done online, and it's split into sections, which you can see here: objectives, insight, strategy, execution, and results. Objectives is literally that. There's a word limit on each of these sections, and the system won't allow you to go over the word limit, which I hope you'll find is a blessing, because it means you don't have to write too much. The objectives, the word limit is around 50 words. There's no scores on this from the judges. It's purely so you can outline what was the point of your campaign. What were you trying to achieve? Now, the next four sections are equally weighted. So insight, these are all about 200 or 250 word limit each. Insight, really think about what was the insight to your campaign. And the feedback from judges is they really want some deep insight. So, for example, judges will shudder if they hear we wanted to reach 18 to 24-year-olds, so we decided to sponsor a rock concert. That does not count as an insight in their view. I can give you an example. We had a winner last year with a campaign called Glitch, the longest, shortest ad ever, and it was an ad by, or campaign rather, by for Xbox. Hang on, let me just mute someone else. So the campaign for Xbox, they were struggling a little bit because they'd found that they had veered away from their core audience of gamers, and they really wanted to get back into the gaming community. The insight was exactly that. They needed to get back to their core audience, and in order to do that, they ran a series of ads, and within the ad was actually embedded code. So it was a real one for the gamers, and it flashed up in a millisecond. And then there was a whole social media chatter around gamers discussing, did you see that code? What does it mean? And actually planted it. It was almost like a treasure hunt. Every piece of coding required the gamers to act on it and follow the coding and develop where they went next. And they released different sections of the code at a time. So eventually the quickest gamer to work out the answer led them to a secret padlock box, and I think some amazing prize inside. But the insight was the amount of time and energy gamers would spend, and actually just telling them something was great wasn't good enough. They had to discover it themselves. So that was a superb piece of insight. Strategy. How are you going to win? This is the overall idea of what you need to do to fulfill your objectives. Don't confuse it with execution. Execution is literally what tactical things did you do to make the campaign happen. So be very clear on the difference between the two. And finally, results. As I mentioned in the effectiveness award, the results account for 40% of the marks. Otherwise, these four sections, insight, strategy, execution, results, each have equal weighting. So be very clear on how much energy and effort you put into each section. Results, really, my top tip on results or feedback from the judges is that there has been comments about there's sometimes a disconnect between the objectives and the results of the campaign. They really want to see and understand quickly what the client wanted, what you were trying to achieve, and how did that actually work out in the end. So I always think it's a bit like reading back over your work and just ensuring there's a flow of the storytelling, and what you started out at the beginning as stating, you actually link back to at the end and say that you've achieved or to what level you've achieved it. That's the written entry, and I'll show you in a minute the online form that you'll need to do for that. The second part of the entry process is a 2-minute video. This is a standalone piece that's taken into the final jury. So the written entries online are all viewed and scored and rated by an online jury who do it remotely. There'll be about 50 different judges from all around the world looking at your campaigns and marking them. And it's the top scoring campaigns that make it to the shortlist. So it's only the shortlisted entrants who need to make a video. And this is really to help you guys so you don't waste time or money if you don't need to. So it's the shortlisted entrants need to do a 2-minute video, and that's what's taken into the final jury room. So the written entry, when you go to the entry site, it will look like this. And I've just put the link to the entry site there on the side. You'll see in this right-hand area, you'll need to register. So register your name, email address and details. That's really so you can go back into the entry site. Once you start writing your entries in there, you don't have to complete them straight away. I mean, you might want to prepare them offline beforehand and then upload it. But any time up until the deadline, the site is open and you can go back, you can change, you can complete. So it's often a good idea just to register the entries that you have and set them up, and then you can go back and review them over the whole time period as you wish. So do register and log in. Once you've done that, this is an example where someone's got several campaigns in there. Otherwise, you'll see at the top area it says create submission. And that's where you'll create your first entry for the first time. It will give you a form, you fill in your name, your contact details. We also ask for a second contact. Please fill that in. It's really important. When we come to inform you whether you've reached a shortlist or not, it's no good if you're on holiday or sick. We'll inform the second contact as well. So it's really important that you put that in. And then it will literally have open field boxes for those areas I mentioned, the objectives, insights, strategy, execution, results. It will also ask for your client details. So your campaign you're submitted must have been signed off by the client. I know sometimes this can be a time-consuming process, so make sure you've allowed for that. It must be signed off by the client and their details put in there as proof that they've done so. And finally, as to round off your written entry, you need to upload 2 images. They should be JPEGs. It won't work otherwise. And when the judges are reviewing your written entry, they will see those 2 JPEGs. On the screen, they're not huge, just so you know, these JPEGs are probably kind of 2 inches by 3 inches on the screen. Judges can click on them to expand, but they're purely meant to be supporting images. They don't need to be mood boards or any special graphic you've created. It's purely a visual to support your campaign case study. And lastly, of course, unfortunately, you will need to pay for your entries. So you can do that online by credit card, or there will be an invoicing option once you've exceeded a certain level. So you really need to make a wow impact with your written entry to get through to the second stage. So here are my top 5 tips. I think these might sound really obvious when you see them and hear them, but it's amazing how often judges critique these very points. So the most important point I'd say is read the category criteria. Go to the website, read the criteria, and really read it word for word. All the entries that are submitted are excellent. So judges are often really trying to split hairs on the levels of excellence. And if a description says this should be a great example, they really will be looking for a great example, not just good. But the category criteria is essential because we do not change where your entries sit, and nor do the judges. So sometimes the judges will be kicking themselves saying, oh, that was an amazing social media campaign, but why wasn't it in the social media category? We don't change it. and they really will judge work according to the category criteria. So you could have a stunning campaign, but if it doesn't fit the category that it's in, then it won't win. And often judges are disappointed where they feel a really good campaign has lost out purely because it wasn't in the right category, and we don't move them purely just to be fair to everyone. Otherwise we could go never ending changing where everyone's category. So please do look at that, and get someone else to read it and someone else to check, see if it makes sense to them. And my team's always on hand. We're always happy to advise too. Second tip, be clear and concise. This is where you're forced to a little bit, because we do have a word limit on the entries. But again, one of our judges came back and said her top tip was, what really makes your campaign unique, and put that up front. You might have stunning results. You might not want to wait until the very end to say what those results were. Judges, when they're reading online work, have about 6 hours worth to do. And another little secret, they nearly always leave it to the last minute and always do it all at once. So they're reading a hell of a lot of entries all in one go. So really grab them at the start. And a judge has advised that if you had to do a 30-second elevator pitch, what would you say? Use this language and passion within the submission to make it really clear and really stand out, and put that up front. So that also links to highlight the big idea from the start. What's really going to grab a judge, and what really set your campaign on the road to success. Outline your objectives. I mentioned that. Again, don't just put all your wow results at the end. Say at the beginning what you were trying to achieve, and at the end, it's a good idea just to double back and say, oh, this is how we actually ended up. And this is partly about putting your results into context. And by that, I mean, if, for example, you say we got 10,000 Facebook likes, is that more than the brand has ever done? Is that more than anyone gets in that particular category or for the country? Was it a media first? Is there anything in particular that really stands out? We had a winner on a recent awards, and to be honest, results often have very large numbers attached. What really rang home was they also stated the population size for that country, and it really put it into context that, wow, they'd actually managed to reach something like 3/4 of the population. It was amazing, and there was some real evidence to back that up too. So judges, we have some very experienced judges, and they'll always bring to bear their global and regional experience, and they will have the knowledge to know that actually, for example, a 2% increase in sales in a developed market like the UK, for example, might actually be really good because it's a developed market. Whereas if you said you had a 2% uplift in somewhere like India, which has a huge population, maybe that's not so good. But if you can paint a picture of why your results are good, that would be hugely helpful. And I think very importantly for M&M Global Awards is the cultural context of a campaign. Again, another judge just said the cultural context cannot be understated. In most cases, unfortunately, it is. As a judge, I want to instantly get a sense of what's going on culturally. Otherwise, I might see everything from my very Western and very localized eyes. So it's really important. Don't assume the judges know your category, your market, your country, even if it's a particular religious connection or some kind of festivity. Always explain very briefly, a one line why that's important. So on to submitting videos. This is when you've done your written entry, the judges have loved it, scored it highly, and you've reached the shortlist. Hooray! The shortlist is announced on 27th of July. As I mentioned, whoever submitted the campaign will be contacted directly. We announce the shortlist on our website and social media, but we will be emailing the entrant directly. At that point, we'll give you details of what to do next. That is to create your video. The video should be 2 minutes long, and this is for the final jury. The video, if it has narration, it should be in English or at least have English subtitles. Sometimes people ask, should they have voiceovers or none at all? It really varies, and I would say there's no common answer as to which is more right than the other or more successful. To be honest, in a judging room, it's often nice to have a mix. So it's not terribly important, as long as any narration is clear and understandable, and any subtitles, again, are clear on the screen and not on the edge, so they might sort of drop off the screen. It really doesn't matter. There's often some catchy music in there, or some people rely more on graphics and typographics. I would say all of those techniques work equally well. The deadline for videos is the 26th of August. So I'm afraid that is going to be a busy time for you over the summer. It's about a month to get your video ready. So now I'd really like to show you some videos. So I'm going to turn myself off talking, and you'll see underneath who the video is for and which agency. And I'll let the videos run, and I'll speak a little bit afterwards. At the top you can see what category they were entered into, and these are all previous winners. So I hope you enjoy and that these will
Netflix wanted to make the second season of Orange is the New Black even bigger.
3, 2, 1, go!
All the while cementing their position as the leader in innovative original programming. From season 1, we knew that fans connected with the struggles of the characters that transcended prison cliches. The bars was not the story. The story was the strong, complex women behind those bars. The fact that humanity is present even in the most inhumane places was a key insight behind a multi-phase global native advertising campaign that championed storytelling excellence and lifted the bar for what native advertising could be. Our native content experience and video series in the New York Times explored that reality of life in women's prisons and rivaled time spent benchmarks for New York Times top editorial.
They really make sure you understand that you have lost control of your life and that they now have control of your life.
As far as native advertising goes, that's about as good as it gets.
With online retailer Guild, we produced a flash sale featuring members of the cast, Q&A, fashion-forward business attire, and footage from the new season. We integrated Orange is the New Black in in-show tasks in reality show Big Brother in Europe and made bespoke TV spots, hitting over 10 million viewers with imprisonment themes. All in all, the new campaign raised awareness of the second season of Orange is the New Black by 33%. The likelihood to recommend went up 15%. New member sign-ups to Netflix showed an uplift of 22%. The campaign elevated Orange is the New Black from a cult series into a pop culture hit.
This is like next level crazy.
Further establishing Netflix as a home for world-class original content and great stories well told.
What?
The ladies of Litchfield were back behind bars, and the world wanted to hear their stories.
That's what I'm talking about!
I think maybe some of the quality of the videos isn't working as well as we'd like on some of these, so I might try one more, and otherwise not to worry, we can send links around afterwards for these and a few others, but I'll try one more. This one's for Star Wars Rebels Wanted.
The original Star Wars film in 1977 created a new phenomenon, the billion-dollar movie franchise. With a new film releasing in December, we had to recruit the current generation of kids if Star Wars was going to be successful. But we had a problem. These kids thought Star Wars was old-fashioned and something for their dads. The TV show Star Wars Rebels was created as the perfect way to bridge this generation gap. To ensure kids believed Rebels was for them, we needed to go beyond traditional desktop research. We started off by meeting our target audience face-to-face.
My name's Cameron. I had a really fun afternoon in London where I was asked to go to a workshop with my friends. We talked about Star Wars Rebels and what we liked about them. Me and my friends all loved Ezra the Jedi and his adventures. My mate Tom told me that at the cinema they had these really cool Star Wars Rebel posters where you could touch the screen and beat up bad guys. So I went with some friends. I got the top score and won loads of cool stuff. Even when I went home, I played a really cool app on the iPad and got to blow up loads of TIE fighters in space. And online, I play Master of the Force to become a better Jedi. I'm so good at it. I'm a lightsaber master. I want to get the top score so I can beat the evil Empire with my friends. I even got to show that I can use a lightsaber like a real Jedi master. I sent in a video online to the Wall of Rebellion showing how good I am, and they added lightsaber effects. It was so cool.
Our efforts to target children through this campaign delivered amazing results. Over 10 million children watched the first series of Star Wars Rebels, and it was the new #1 kids show on pay TV. Loads of wannabe Jedi joined up to master the Force online. The interactive posters were the most successful Prime site have ever run. Kids spent over 35 million minutes on a Rebel adventure across all our campaign platforms. We tracked the highest affinity of any Disney show. We had succeeded in recruiting the next generation of young rebels to the Star Wars franchise.
Hopefully you can see there was really great campaigns there, and that's a little taste of what the judges see and what their experience is like. The Economist in particular could also have been submitted to Best Targeted Campaign, and Orange is the New Black. Last year there was a category about native advertising, which we don't have. However, that would really easily now fit into the creative use of technology. So both the Economist one and actually the Orange is the New Black could fit into the creative use of technology, just to give you an idea. The Star Wars one I think is really lovely. It shows the creativity of the storytelling. I know that judges really enjoyed the young boy doing some of the narration, just really fitted with the campaign and the message they were getting across, and that won Best Targeted Campaign, as well as obviously having fantastic results. So I'm going to move on now and say we can give you some more links to give you ideas of what wins over the judges' hearts and minds. The awards timeline, I mentioned the early entry deadline is the 13th of May. The final entry deadline is, I know you'll probably want to squeeze out as much time as possible, it's the 27th of May. So that's for your written entry. So all written entries to be in by 27th of May. The shortlist announcement, so basically after that 27th of May, then we close the entry site and it goes over to the judges. We give them about a month or so to go through all the entries, reading and scoring them. And the highest scoring entries are then announced to the shortlist on the 27th of July. And once that's done, we'll contact you, and you've got about a month. 26th of August is the deadline for your videos, and that's for the final jury room. Please be aware too, with the videos in the final jury room, they should really be standalone. We do allow judges in the jury room, they're all given the written entries as reference, and often in the jury room, judges will refer to them. We don't have any dedicated time for juries to read or sit down and just have a whole section of reading, which I know some awards do. So it really is about watching the videos, and they have to be self-explanatory. Don't rely on the judges reading your written entry too. Sometimes that's really a missed opportunity. I know sometimes judges will be debating and one judge will say, oh, hang on a minute, they actually state this in their written entry, and there's some stronger points made in the written submission. So just make sure you get all those important points in your video and that it really stands alone to convince the judges. The judging day is in September. That's a full day when we trap our judges in a room for a whole day watching all your videos. They debate and vote on them there and then. And then a few days later, on the 8th September, that's when we announce the winners for the first time. So you should be booking your tables, ready to come and listen to the announcements. If you haven't booked your table, you'll no doubt get some serious hints from us that you should be there in person, and that's where you'll collect your trophies. At the bottom here, some of you may be interested in how do I get one of my senior management team members on the jury panel. Please email my colleague Lisa, who will recruit the judges. For entries, Fanny is your lady to go to. She can help you with anything, whether you've got a technical problem with the entry site, any uploading issues, some general query about what should I enter or what should I do, she can help. Obviously, when we do give advice, it's from our experience. I can't guarantee that that's what judges will think or agree, but it's our recommendation based on what we've seen in the years gone past. And finally, there's the website address. You go to, do make sure you look at the category descriptions, pick the right ones. You can enter your campaign into more than one category. If you do, I would very much recommend that you tailor your written submission to the category. When it comes to videos, we appreciate they're expensive to make, so you don't necessarily have to remake the video per category. That could be the same video. But certainly on the written, if you've got the opportunity, I'd recommend that you make it as relevant to that category as possible. And finally, there's my details. My name's Danielle. There's my email address. I work across all of the awards we create here at C Squared. So that's the Festival of Media Global in Rome, MENA edition, which is in Dubai next week, LATAM in Miami in October, and Asia that we've just done in Singapore. So as well as M&M Global Awards. I have sat on way too many jury panels now, so do contact me direct if you've got any questions, particularly about judges or tips or the new categories. I'd be very happy to help, or if you feel it's useful for us to come in and talk directly to a wider team, we're also happy to arrange that with you. I hope you found that useful. I said I'd cover a couple of questions. I think I just had a few in. One that stood out, which I probably haven't covered yet, which was a question of, as a non-media agency, how can I win? Really good question. We do get a lot of entries from media agencies, a serious amount, and it's not about numbers. I've also seen companies enter only 2 or 3 campaigns and still get to shortlist and even win. They have to be seriously excellent. I would say that use your skills and expertise in the area in which you work. I know that the media agencies on the line would probably agree that they are seriously geared up for entering awards. They have people, departments, they've been doing it for years, and generally they're really good at it. So just be aware that to use your own specialties. Do read over previous winners. I think that gives you a real flavour, and I think when you read, things really stand out. But as I say, myself and my team are very happy to support you, give you more feedback from judges, more advice, and that offer is open to anyone. Always happy to help and give you some kind of insiders, but just read. It's a bit, I always think it's like doing your homework at school. Read the question, answer the question, and everything should go well. So best of luck. If we don't hear from you again, we look forward to seeing your entries. Anyone that's missed this presentation, we are recording and we will post this online. Also, we're holding the same session again at 9:30 tomorrow morning. So if you have any colleagues that would like to hear this, there's an opportunity to again submit more questions so I can answer them live at the time. I'll just check that I have no more questions that have come in. Nope. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I hope you found that useful and best of luck.